conflicting statements here from the Prime Minister and Megan Davis. Andrew Charlton, who is right? Is the Uluru Statement from the heart one page or not? And why does this matter?
Well, the Uluru Statement from the heart is one page. And this issue doesn't really matter at all. It's really a semantic issue. Yes, there is supplementary information, and the NIAA has released a statement today which clarifies this entirely. They say that the Uluru Statement from the heart is a single page, but there were other pages associated with it which included background information and excerpts from the regional dialogues. So it's a bit semantic whether you call it one page or whether you want to include that background information. What most people know is that the statement is 430 odd words. It's a beautiful statement that asks Australia to move forward as a nation and support reconciliation through the voice.
Bridget, McKenzie, do you want to jump in here?
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, I don't know what it's been like in your chamber, but in the Senate, we've been debating this all week. The Uluru Statement of the Heart, you were on this show last week and you said we are committed to implementing it in full. Well, here it is. Correct. In full, Andrew. And it's not just the simple little document you're talking about. Makarrata, we've been trying to work out what Makarrata means, where the money has gone. Page 7 of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, Makarrata is another word for treaty. We can't get that word out of the Prime Minister's mouth. We've got an actual whole section on treaty on page 18 and 19. And then at the back, there is actually a staged way of implementing the Uluru Statement from the Heart. And the 5th stage is establishing the voice. And lo and behold, the 6th stage is towards treaty. This is actually what the Uluru Statement from the Heart says. And I don't have a problem if this is what the Labor Party wants to do. They just need to be upfront of it. And the scare campaign, the shroud of secrecy that has surrounded this document, that has required an FOI to actually get it on the public record, we're tabling it in Parliament so that all Australians can actually read the document in full and make up their own mind. So if you had constitutional conventions, Andrew, Australians could actually debate this and understand it more deeply. Instead, you are very keen to not give the detail, hide the documentation, and really run into a referendum without giving Australians the decency of knowledge.
Well, a lot of what you said is just wrong. This document has been publicly available for a long time. There's certainly no secrecy around it. For a while, you were complaining about a lack of detail. Now you seem to be saying there's too much detail. It's hard to know what the problem really is, except the political problem that you have, which is you want the voice to go down. And so because you can't argue against it specifically, you're creating a whole scare campaign that you referred to yourself about all of these other incidental issues, rather than debate the simple proposition of whether a voice to Parliament for Indigenous Australians is a good thing.
Andrew, every time someone points out something wrong, you all resort to personal attacks.
This is not
every single one of you.
This is no personal attack.
Yep.
Is this why
today the PM does it?
Is this why the Prime Minister has been... Thank you very much, Andrew. Is this why the Prime Minister has been trying to distance himself from the full document, because he doesn't want to be asked questions about what's on page 19 and, whether there will be, what proportion of GDP, of Australia's GDP will be given in reparations? Is this why Albanese doesn't want to, admit, or why he's saying that it's a conspiracy to say that the Uluru Statement from the Heart extends to up to 26 pages, instead of just saying, yep, the actual statement is one page, but there's all of this supporting data, as you just said very articulately a minute ago?
Well, no, Anthony Albanese is absolutely right to say that the Uluru Statement from the Heart is one page. That is what the authors of the Statement from the Heart say. That is what the NIAA has now confirmed. Of course, there is background information and excerpts from the many regional dialogues, because remember, this was a long process to get to the Uluru Statement from the Heart. But what people need to realise here is that we are debating a simple proposition. And what the Liberals want to do is to confound and conflate that proposition with a whole range of other issues to create a big scare campaign. But remember, Shari, that we have seen this movie before. Back in 2008, when we had the apology to the stolen generation, Peter Dutton ran a scare campaign. He said that we couldn't support the apology because it would create a $10 billion liability in reparations. He was wrong. That didn't happen. It was a scare campaign. We did the apology and we moved forward as a nation. Remember, back in 1992, when we were debating the Mabo legislation, the Liberals said it would cost Australia our backyard. They'd run a big scare campaign. Of course, it didn't cost Australians their backyard. We moved forward as a nation and we were stronger for it. So we're going to have another scare campaign in this referendum, but that's okay. We'll just have to meet each one of those points with clear, rational arguments, and that's precisely what the Prime Minister is doing, talking about the proposition that is in front of us, which is the voice to Parliament.
Well, a new poll, this time published by The Guardian, shows that the yes vote is only leading, so is only higher than the no vote in one state, Victoria, and even then it only leads by 1%. 47% of people say they plan to vote yes in Victoria compared to 46% voting no. And overall, The Guardian's essential poll found that 47% of Australians opposed a voice. Bridget, maybe this is the opposition's scare campaign being very effective, but it does seem to be on track to fail.
Well, Shari, I think what you've seen land in Australian voting public's letterboxes recently are the yes and no pamphlets, which actually outline both sides of this referenda debate's reasons for Australians to either vote yes or no. Now, Australians have sat down with those documents and they are absolutely going to the detail and to the concerns and the aspirations of both sides of the argument. And in light of that information, finally getting some detail out of Canberra, they're saying, you know what, I don't think this is a good idea, because it isn't fair for the Labor Party to portray people like myself, people from my community who are voting no, respectfully, as people who aren't committed to reconciliation, who aren't committed to closing the gap. And I think this is the real issue for the Labor Party. They thought they could run a racist scare campaign. You vote no, you're a racist campaign. And the reality is Australians care very deeply about vulnerable Torres Strait Islanders and Aboriginal Australians. They want to close the gap, but they do not want to change their constitution. And if the Labor government and Albanese thought this was the way to do it, they should just be upfront and explain it, but they refuse.